Okay, let's call the meeting to order. I'm John Alden. This is the February 20th meeting of the Development Review Board, City of Essex Junction. We have a number of people on remotely, so I'm going to ask Michael to read the hybrid meeting notice, please.
Yeah, let me pull them up. Sorry, just one moment. Okay, the meeting of the Essex Junction Development Review Board has come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically here at 6 Lincoln Street in the Colvard Room at Brownell Library, where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. One member of this public body or other staff is present here at Brownell Library to ensure the public can participate if desired. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert me by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing me mgiguere@essexjunction.org. And in the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to March 20th at 6:30 p.m. at 6 Lincoln Street, Essex Junction. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote out loud in accordance with the law. Since we do have 2 board members attending remotely today, let's take a quick roll call attendance in the room and remotely online.
Dylan Zwicky.
John Alden.
Maggie Massey.
Brockmeyer.
Kristen's there. She's muted, but we saw her wave. So
Great.
Great. Any additions or amendments to the agenda besides the revised note? Meeting?
Sorry?
Any changes to the agenda?
No changes from me.
All right. Public to be heard. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of something that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's move on. Minutes for approval. Let's start with the November 21st. We have 2 sets tonight. This will be relatively quick. So on the November minutes, we tabled them last time because we were looking for some clarification on whether we actually closed the public hearing by accident or continued it as intended. The minutes currently have both actions in the motion. So Michael, can you just explain to us what happens there?
Yeah, so full context, in November, an applicant asked for their application to be considered for conceptual and final site plan approval simultaneously, which we granted. During the hearing for conceptual site plan, it was determined by the board that final site plan review should take place during December's meeting based on outstanding submission materials. The intention of the board, as we discussed at our last meeting, was to continue the public hearing, but verbally the public hearing was closed. This was noticed by staff, and we anticipated this issue and actually re-warned the public hearing per open meeting law for final site plan review for December to avoid conflict surrounding this. After clarifying with city staff, the minutes must reflect what was spoken, even if the intent was continue to continue the public hearing in December. So as far as I'm aware, we are all squared away, and I believe the minutes can reflect accurately that verbally the hearing was closed, but was continued since it was rewarned with a new newspaper ad and everything.
So I'll just make the motion that we approve the minutes as amended, which don't show up until the next month's minutes. Is that fair?
Makes sense to me.
Because we made a few corrections. The following, we'll find them in the next set of minutes, but that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so December 19th minutes. I just had some, I thought I had some typos in here. Mr. Sevic's name on page 2 is not consistently spelled throughout the document, so last paragraph of page 2. And then halfway down page 3, Mr. Alden said he would like to add a condition requiring the applicant to comply with all staff comments. I think that's a normal condition anyway. Did I really say that?
May have been said, yeah. Our secretary picks up
Yeah.
picks up things quickly, yeah.
Okay. And halfway down page, page number 4, second paragraph of item 5, Mr. Greg said, I believe that's Mr. Dixon, whose first name is Greg. And then there's just a typo in the next bolded paragraph. Dylan Zwicky made a motion, seconded by. It needs to just be in the right order here. It says seconded John Alden by the DRB, so it's just moved by. And that's all I have on this set of minutes. Anybody else have corrections or comments? All right, I'll take a motion to approve the December 19th, 2024 minutes as amended. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, public meeting. This is a public meeting for a conceptual site plan to add 3 dwelling units to an existing 3-story mixed-use building with 2 dwelling units and a commercial space at 34 Park Street in the Village Center District by Park Street Ventures LLC. Do we have members speaking on this behalf from the applicants? Yes, 3. I have to swear you in. Everyone proposing to speak tonight, please answer I do after I read the statement. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Thank you very much. I guess there's no table to come. Well, we do have a little table there. So they want you to use the mic. So whoever's going to speak, please use the mic and to come up to the table, introduce yourself. And then we're going to ask for a brief presentation on the project. And I think we have graphics available, Michael.
Yep.
So prompt Michael for direction. Yep, bring your chairs, there you go. Bigger table.
I am Michael Alavanos with JRMA Design Studio.
I'm Chris McEwing with Park Street Ventures.
Tim Mack with Park Street Ventures also.
I'll just kick it off here. This is we have an existing building here that has a phenomenal space up above some pre-existing commercial. Tim and Chris have the opportunity to put some units in the upper level of this building. Right now, it's just a wide open, warehouse space that has some documents and, old restaurant equipment. But the concept is to utilize this. We looked at potentially adding up to 5 new residential units in this building. When we sort of cost broke that down, we had to reduce it down to 3 in order to make the budgets work. So we had a pretty tight budget on this project, but essentially what you see before you is just interior renovations to this existing building. 3 units. I think there's a studio on one corner. We have the middle unit that has a loft space up above to be able to have some, like a bedroom up above there, and then the corner unit, the one that's sort of facing the courtyard, is a single bedroom. I think the motivation here is to try to utilize a space that, for better or for worse, has been storage for years. They're looking to, I think recently, if I'm not mistaken, you guys purchased the whole property, so they're looking to add additional value to the site. It's a pretty tight project in general. I think if you guys are on the DRB, maybe you've heard too, these, putting housing in existing commercial buildings is never easy. You have to retrofit a lot. So, looking at staff comments, I think we would love to have a conversation with you guys just about what exactly are the highest priorities you need in order to get this project approved. Our take is, we're trying to make it as simple as possible. So our take is that we're just trying to do interior renovations, not look at the whole site in its entirety, but just try to focus heavily on the existing space that we're working within. So there's no, originally, I think that's why you see a little bit of discrepancy with 5 units versus 3, or I think under condition number, the condition that basically asks about the amount of wastewater we'll be using. Originally, again, we tried to put 5 units in this building, but we had to reduce it down to 3 because we were looking at potentially doing big dormers in the building to try to get some daylight in there, but it's just not possible at this point. So we've limited everything to just the walls that we're within. The only thing we're potentially doing, or actually we propose to do, is 2 new windows on the exterior of the building. So I'm happy to go over staff comments, or if you guys want to add any value or anything to the table.
I do have an ongoing conversation about the wastewater because there seemed to be some confusion there. So that's going with the other engineers that had originally submitted that information. So they're going to provide something updated.
So just for everybody else who may not be that familiar with the building, this is the former Flanders lumber building. This is, I believe, the northeast back corner of, is that?
This is road facing.
This is road facing.
Yes. Yeah. So this is directly above what's currently East Coast Printer.
So this is the southwest corner. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So just when you come back, like a site plan and a location key plan, so we know where this is on the building would be.
Michael, wasn't there a page
helpful.
that showed the front of it? I don't know if that's
Well, we have some drawings, but none of them show the whole thing. They
okay.
They show a piece of it, the piece of it that you're working on, but they don't actually help us locate the building.
Sure.
I was trying to figure out where I was on it. I've been there back when it was Flanders. Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to help.
I know what it looks like, but I mean, it's been there for a long time. Oddly, it's probably a historic building, which it's not probably listed as one, but I'm sure it's eligible just based on age of it. I don't see the towers. There's one or two towers
There's
on
two
there?
cupolas.
Two.
Yeah.
So I think there may be some discussion about what your obligation would be to fit into the neighborhood, and all of that. But I'm struggling with whether any of that applies. In that it's an existing building that's already there. You're changing a use in the building, which is normally more of a life safety problem than a neighborhood appearance problem. But we can get into that. I was hoping that the staff report had a little more in the applicability part of this, and maybe we can talk about that and get the staff's point of view. But really, aside from adding a few windows, there are no visible changes to the building, and so the average person showing up or driving by is never gonna know anything is going on. Which, it used to be there's what was in the middle was a loading dock with fork trucks driving around, and the rest of it was kind of odds and ends uses. So I have absolutely no issue with what's really being proposed here. It's a wonderful chance again to add some housing into a neighborhood that's full of housing. Surprisingly enough, there's houses all over and big apartments right next to it and behind it. So I don't see any issues there. It's more about the applicability of some of our regulations, which are designed around somebody adding a new building, in my opinion. So I will ask staff to weigh in on that, but I thought I'd let the rest of the board throw any initial comments out there. Get your bearings, you know where it is. Anybody, Kristen, Luke, you guys all right?
Is there, will there be parking already for tenants? Where would that be?
I think it's outlined, but there's already quite a bit of parking around the
There is,
building.
is it on the side, sort of like?
Every side, yep. Behind, south,
This is
north.
where the site plan comes in.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm mistaken, Michael, but there are no parking requirements?
That's correct. No parking requirements for locations in the village center district. So if the applicant came forward and said we are not proposing to add parking for new tenants, they would be permitted to do so.
Yep. So the history behind the building was as a lumber and home, basically a old-fashioned hardware store. There were trucks and deliveries and customers and parking all over. It's all asphalt around it. There's no grass. So it's more of a management issue for the building owners on how to orchestrate all of that. It is on a transit line. It meets all the requirements and issues that we see for places that are encouraging housing and may not have any parking at all. But I think you have plenty of asphalt to work with. I would just say that in concept, when it goes forward, it may be helpful to see a site plan that had some idea of how you're going to manage the vehicles. We don't know that anybody's going to have any, but we know somebody will, and you guys have to manage those.
So you'd be looking for designated tenant parking sort of thing versus
That's
the
up
rest?
to you. I'm not telling you how to manage it.
Okay.
I'm just saying that there's a lot of pavement there. You should have a plan for how it gets used. There's retail and eateries on the other side, right?
Correct.
There's some parking over there. I think the whole building needs to have some idea. There'll be some stripes on it. You may have some accessible spots, all of that, right? So as you add residential into the mix, I don't know if it changes anything. You have to tell us, right? And
And is the entrance to the apartments, will it be on the street side? Am I understanding that right?
There will be actually two entrances, one on the street, one actually you could potentially use the courtyard. You know, it's not, essentially the street facing one is the one we would be using the most. But there is a second means of egress in and out of the building from the interior courtyard.
And when you say the courtyard, it's that area.
Yeah,
between
I don't know if there's
The
a-
loading dock.
the loading dock. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
not
still an actively used loading dock.
my fault. The actively used loading dock area will technically add as a second means of egress to the.
Which is on the side when you go on that part.
It's to the left on the top drawing.
Is there a site plan we could look at, or I apologize.
Yeah, the applicant submitted an existing conditions site plan, so this won't. Yeah, I mean, given that it's mostly interior changes, that might be helpful to look at. Yeah, of course.
And there are 2 units?
Correct.
Okay.
And regarding the parking, again, I like to think that we can. I mean, there's ample parking on the site, just like you said, John. So I think that particular discussion around management of the space will be handled by us internally. But maybe we can start to generate internally some type of idea of how things park on the site, and then in the future, if we ever develop further or look at adding additional units, we can look to provide that to the staff as well. So, but this sort of gives you an idea. I know this is sort of just shows the exterior walls of the building, but the idea is like on the page, the left lower portion of the page, that area is where we are proposing 3 units on the second level, and parking, I'm guessing, would be all around the building, but tenants would probably want to park as close as they can, so that area to the south would be utilized for tenant parking, and then they would access the building from the street side entrance.
And what's the current, so this is on the second floor, what's underneath? Is it just vacant commercial? industrial
Underneath it is
space?
East Coast Printers.
Okay.
And we will have to go, just like you said, John, too, we will have to go through a series of life safety improvements on the building. The building's fully sprinkled, so that's a great thing on our end, but we are going to have to utilize, proper life safety management and fire safety equipment or walls.
Yeah, there'll be some sheetrock involved.
Yeah, that's actually it's one of the things that makes us, we have to go through that portion and make sure it's done correctly. So
Yeah.
it's a big cost that we have to undertake.
Any other questions at the moment from the board?
I'm sorry, go.
It's kind of a comment. Something that I really like about your building is that every time I'm driving south on Park Street and Karen's closet is open, there's a mannequin on the curb, and I always think that mannequin is a pedestrian who's about to cross the street, and it makes me slow down and makes the whole area more walkable.
We'll add
So I
more mannequins.
mentioned that just because I'd like to see in this design how to kind of carry that down to the portion of the building where the units are going to be, how the building can interact with the rest of the neighborhood, which is, I think, rapidly becoming like a retail-y type of corridor. That's just kind of my comment.
Kristen?
Yeah, no, I agree with Luke. I mean, I know that, just making it's not the prettiest and most appealing area outside that building right now. So anything, if you're trying to attract a tenant, it might be nice to kind of have that entranceway and make it a little bit more walkable. My other question is, and I think you're thinking about this in your renovations to the space, but like, is it safe to live above a printing business? Or is there anything with this done?
That's their life safety challenge. And it may also be an acoustic challenge, but
Yeah,
it's not really our issue to wrestle with. If you like the sound of printing press, I don't know, it's silk screen, and it's mostly silk screen.
It's mostly screen
I
printing,
would-
yes, yeah.
I was
it's
thinking
actually
about more
pla-
chemicals.
Thinking of what?
Chemicals, smells, exhaust.
Yeah, that too. Again, that's there's a building management operation that will have to deal with that. So that's probably a good comment. The smell. I mean, I don't know what kind of soy, what are you using for your products there, but the goal would be to keep the residents from smelling or hearing the printing operation, and that's a challenge for them. So.
Well, and also just, and I know that this is part of your life safety upgrades, is that you said the space was it was a hardware store and it was a storage. So like what was stored up there, and, that all those pieces that I could imagine would be, would take some, additional things to update it and make sure it's safe for occupants.
It depends how the building's split up now, but there are regulations in place in the life safety code to handle what happens with storage and what happens when you have one use next to another use, and it's all prescribed in the code, so if they handle that correctly, then it should be fine.
Great.
So are going to be subject to the Vermont Energy Code as well. So, what used to be a building that, didn't have there's virtually no insulation up there. There's nothing that, supports the current energy code. So we're going to have to make sure that that's abided by. Life safety codes, egress codes, regarding any storage. John's right, in terms of, the occupancy and, how to protect against that. I mean, that's all going to have to be undertaken, which, it's going to take some time and thinking. But I think the first big hurdle is to make sure from a zoning perspective, we're not putting ourselves in a position where we can't even get this project done because we're going to have to jump through a number of hoops just to put 3 units up there. So I wouldn't mind opening that for further discussion on.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask that question to staff at the moment, which is the building is already a mixed-use building with residential units in it already. Is that what you said? I'm just wondering how adding more residential units impacts the compliance of what are the requirements for we can treat the portion of the building that's being updated, or we can open it up to the whole building and site. And I'm just wondering how you determine that, and things that are based like on let's just say the bicycle parking count. If that's based on the number of units being added, or based on the building as a whole, or what triggers do you see the project hitting that that drives those requirements?
Yeah.
5,000 gross square feet.
Yeah.
I have questions about that.
There you go.
Yep.
Michael, you're out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
5,000 square feet.
5,000 gross square feet.
Yeah, that's the applicability of long-term bicycle storage. So initially in my correspondence with the applicant, I made the mistake of thinking that long-term bike lockers for tenants were required, until we realized that doesn't hit until 5,000 square feet. However, I think in general, we're finding that even for these small retrofits, the LDC requires lighting planned, some amount of landscaping, some amount of temporary bike parking. While I can't speak to the original intention of those chapters, since I didn't write them myself, I think this is an opportunity for development to contribute some amount of public betterment in general. And that being said, I also question the applicability of some of these. I think in particular, I really shook my head at the street tree requirement. As written in the LDC, we require one street tree to be planted for every 40 feet of frontage of the parcel. In recognition that, this was just redone with the Crescent Connector, it would feel uncomfortable for me to ask that of the applicants. What I've prepared for you in the staff report is pointing out all of the corners of the LDC that I found this application snagged on. Not to say that any of these, and so kind of kicking it to you all to determine what's applicable here for a small interior renovation, which,
Yeah.
the city loves to see these type of applications. So this may be a good softball to throw to the planning commission to consider if you all find that maybe these wouldn't be applicable for interior retrofits.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Diane on the call tonight. Your answer of 5,000 square feet is fine, but how many square feet are you guys proposing? I can't
That's what I
quite see it
wondered.
on the plan. So the amount of square footage inside the building that you're actually affecting with 3 units is 3,000 square feet, maybe 3,500, something like
I
that.
want to say it's even.
2,000.
I want to say it's
I got about 2,000 when I measured.
2,000.
Okay.
So
not 5,000.
the trigger. It's a great question because I think the intent of the code is to, again, I essentially believe it's written for new construction, and if the whole building generated a certain amount of, community betterment, a portion of that is possible, but I don't think it's anywhere near the full triggering a full, evaluation of the whole building and site. So I do want to dive into that or to give you some direction on that as we move forward. But my sense would be the most I would see on a project of this type would be some kind of prorated thing where you're affecting 2,500 square feet out of what's the whole building?
The whole building's
90
22,000.
How much?
22,000.
22,000, right? So it might be that kind of thing where we say, well, you're doing, you're really changing the use. So if you weren't changing the use, you wouldn't be triggering half of the stuff we're talking about already. But your change of a portion of it. Where is the other residential in the building now?
It's on the north side. It's actually front and back. So
Okay.
the front is a 2-bedroom unit. The back is a 3-bedroom unit.
It's like above Karen's.
Yes.
Thank you.
And what's your understanding of what you're doing with regard to the trigger of the energy code? Because it seems like a change of use would trigger it, but you're already have that use in the building. You're not in the same place. You've got maybe to treat the portion of the building you're in and bring that up to the energy code, but the rest of the building you're not required to retrofit the rest of it.
Yeah, we would. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're only going to be looking at the portion of the building that we're particularly in. I mean, it would be. We have no budget for going through the rest of the building, and I mean, aside from maybe some minor changes to heating and cooling equipment, but I don't think that's on the table at the moment.
I think that's fair. I think my understanding and interpretation would be that if you took the whole building and changed the use from one thing to the other, then you kind of get the whole package. But if you're only doing a piece of the building and it's already got all these other uses, including residential in it, it isn't the same trigger for me.
I think you know probably pretty well, Joe, on that too. It's the new energy code came out July, and I'll be honest with you, I've cracked it open a few times, but I haven't gone through it religiously.
It's not that much different than the old one. Some of the values went up a little bit, like the roof insulation amount and stuff like that. But the general applicability of it is the same, which is if you change the use, you trigger it. And again, you'll have to read it carefully to see. I think it's the portion that you're dealing with, not the whole building.
Okay.
I think there's they don't have you do that, but That's the only reason you're doing it, because without changing the shell, like anything new, mechanical systems, all that have to comply with the new. But if you're not changing the shell of the building, you don't have to upgrade the shell, except your trigger of change in use. So I would think that the city could also be fair in its adjudication of that kind of thing. If you're adding a little more residential, there's a huge push in the state to add residential. We shouldn't penalize people for doing it, would be my sense of the intent. The fact that you are in a very desirable location within the city, and certainly within the walkable portion of the city, we will always push for and try and get amenities for the walking public. Some of those things have been well described in the staff report, and include maybe there could be improvements to the pedestrian experience walking along the street there. And I don't know what that is yet, but bicycle racks are always big for, I don't know if you guys have any there now, but at the whole building. But I would imagine that enhancing any of the existing services that would meet the criteria that we have in here. Not saying you start from 0 and go all the way to 100. I'm saying whatever, again, the prorated amount would probably be a good way to look at that. And we've written them back when I was on the planning commission. The intent was to not tell them exactly what you have to do, but start the suggestion, so that if you see a need there, like if there's a something that along that stretch of the road you need, maybe this is a good time to put it in, and you guys could do that, and everyone would be very happy with that. Like the mannequin comment is fascinating to me, because I'm not even sure it's supposed to be there, but it's been there for so long, and it is an object of interest.
I believe she
to
takes
many.
it in every night.
So you can think of all kinds of interesting spin-offs to mannequin, but for example, Brandon had painted cows all over, pigs or something, everybody had a different one. Somebody came up with this theme, right? But I'm not saying I want to see mannequins everywhere, but the idea is that the pedestrian experience and the community benefits from something that you do at your location that's coincidental with this project. And I would continue that same logic through the rest of the like if the whole building generates 8 bicycle spots, your little piece of it might only, but you don't want to buy 1 bicycle spot. You want to, do something reasonable. So that's my interpretation. I'd be happy to have other people determine it. I think the comments on storm water and whatever the other engineering aspects are, we'll leave to the engineers. Would you like us to go through the whole thing here? Is that necessary, or do you guys are okay with the general staff comments?
I guess I'm looking at your proposed conditions of approval. I think I'm sort of curious about, I can kind of understand us generating, show where accessible, parking spaces would be. I sort of, I agree to some level about the bike parking. I'd have to talk with you guys about what you want to do and what you want to show. We're not proposing anything. I don't know if it's, I don't want to go outside the box on staff. If you need a lighting plan, I guess we can show existing lighting and what you have. I don't know if that's what is typical for you guys in Essex, but
Yeah, typical our engineer just likes to see existing conditions and any proposed additions, if there is one over the new pedestrian entrance, just to ensure that it's safe for pedestrian entryway.
All right.
I'm just gonna ask questions, and you can. I mean, if the response is no change to the existing, what would be the? I mean, it's an existing building that's fully operational that already has everything. I would say for me, if for example, the proposed apartment use entries are new, I would want to see what you're doing there. Like, I don't really want you to go fix the whole rest of the parking lot or the site for lighting, but I want to see what's being done for those areas. So if you're adding a new entry of some kind, entries have to be illuminated. If those stairs that you're showing going up to that are new, that door are new on the front there, that needs to be where you spend your time, right? Not, and staff may disagree, but if it's already existing and you're not changing it, I don't know where we have, unless we're gonna tell you you have to move something or change it. I don't know whether we really need to see that.
I agree with you, John, 100%. I just don't know if it's typical in Essex Junction to just provide an existing conditions lighting plan for you to have on record, or because we're not, all it would be is just an accounting of what we have there on site today.
Well, is there one? I mean, it might be where, I mean, the thing has been surveyed up and down forever for,
It may be an existing one.
the
we can-
city project.
yeah.
So I would maybe work with staff and see what's on file.
Okay.
And then we can get back to just dealing with the changes.
Yeah, I agree, John. I agree.
I guess the only question on lighting would be if any of the parking spaces there you're going to designate for residents use, so they'd be going in and out at during dark hours. Like, we'd want to make sure that there's lighting there, or plan for lighting for folks.
Trash enclosures. To be honest with you, I'd have to talk with the civil. Are they on? I guess I don't even know where they
Well,
are.
let's go back to the theory that says, tell us what's there now and tell us what changes.
Perfect.
So if you got an entire building that's got to be making some trash already, where do they put it? How does it work? What are you changing? Is there something different about this particular use that will change that? Are you non-compliant now, and this is our chance to help you get compliant? I don't know. Those are the kind of things that I think we're talking about.
Okay.
Changes of existing behavior, changes to existing conditions that may not be fully compliant. I don't know the exact history of all the recent changes to the building. I know it was, it was many things after the hardware store. And there must be a paper trail somewhere. I don't recall seeing everything, but I've only been doing this for.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but is this something we can just work with staff on, or is this something that we have to?
Well, you guys are only conceptual now, right?
That's what I get.
So
that.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
I see.
sure that you're gonna spend a fair amount of time working with staff just to clarify what's on file now. How much of it is acceptable, normal, compliant. Staff may have some ideas on what should be there. You guys really should have all of this stuff. You don't have it. It's theoretically grandfathered as an existing condition, and then the question would come back to staff first and us later as whether this project is enough of a trigger to have you do something.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I think I apologize. I didn't realize this was simply a conceptual meeting, and then
Well, what's it warned as?
it is.
Yeah.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was my fault. Okay.
Yeah. So conceptual, just to remind everybody, you're not required to have all the stuff in place. I think this is a chance for you to say, hey, we have this great idea, and we tell you where we see the things that might be required that are either not on the list or are questionable as to whether they should be on the list. And I think that's why this is a great discussion because
I get it.
it's a fully functional operating permitted building now. So for me, it's what are you changing? And what do you need to change to make your new use work?
I understand. Well, I don't know if I necessarily want to go through everything in at that granular detail. I think
Yeah.
we need to, I don't know, unless you guys want to
Okay.
sit there and talk to them about it, but I think this was very helpful. I think we can adjust our plans to exactly what you guys are saying, show what, if there are any changes, but make sure it's documented and if they're not.
I don't think, the interior plans, nice, fine. We're really more about the outside, the permitted use. If it was a use issue, that would be, up for purview, but I don't think it's a use issue. I think, again, we have jurisdiction over what happens to the outside, what lighting, parking, trash, circulation, pedestrians, crosswalk, any of that stuff we'll look at. But for me, only to the extent that you're altering what's already there to make your current project work.
One flag, which Michael, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but for some of this stuff, I know we can do waivers, like based on how it's set up, but for the bike stuff, there's no waiver in the LDC. So the short-term biking isn't something that we can waive.
It may be. I'd have to dig through the bike parking section's quite long. There are some waivers that the applicant can request, but the details of that I am not sure of.
Biking?
So we can work out those
They
details.
keep beefing up the biking.
I know.
I know.
People get mad, but so I wanted to flag that biking can sometimes be a little.
Yeah. If the board is okay, I would like to open this up to the audience, and I know we have some experienced commentators ready to provide some kind of comment.
I do want to throw out about the bike parking. And sort of as a matter of principle, I read these requirements for the city center as the bike parking may or may not be used by people who are going to this building. It could be bike parking for somebody who's going to go to the pizza place across the street. It could be bike parking for somebody who is just going to take a walk. And that's something that's going to benefit your building in the long run by increasing the number of people interacting with your building and saying, this would be a really great place to live, or this would be a great place to shop. That's my read of the requirements.
And I'll echo that. Traditionally, with a multi-purpose building like this, you have two user groups. One are the residents who live there. I guess three, the other's the employees who work there, and the third is the clients visiting the building. So I look at that as a building operational thing, not necessarily driven by the project. And again, whatever is there now should be suitably enhanced by the addition of this current use or the proposed use. So you might say, well, I've got 6 bike parking locations now, but I think based on trying to do the right thing for my new tenants, I'll have 10 when I'm done. Right. All right. Anything else, Luke?
Michael was right. There is, for less than 6 units, there is a section for a waiver for biking.
So we have no car parking requirements, but we have bike parking requirements. So just trying to be.
I'm all for it.
Good. Anything else?
I'm
Luke, anything else? Kristen? All right. I will open this up to the audience at large, and I'm not sure. Diane Clements has her hand up. Yes, Diane. So anybody else who wants to speak, use the little hand to raise symbol, please.
Okay, so, thanks for letting me speak. And I can bend to the point of allowing them to do what they need to do to get the housing in there. But in the past, the applicant would have been asked for an update to their master plan for the building and the site to bring that up to code. So it's I found it new to know that there's another apartment in this building. So the biking thing is, I'm sure that you could think about them being grandfathered, but it'd be awfully nice for them to come up to code now that they're altering the building as to complying for the number of bike parking slots for the entire building. But that might be more than the applicant wants to chew at this point. But it could be something that they need to comply with in the future, if you want to put it that way. This is conceptual, so yeah, okay, that's what this discussion is about, is to get some guidance going. I looked at the plan, what was online, and went, where's the snow removal going? Because right now, there's been rather discussion about people downtown. It's not just bikes, it's cars too. If they have cars, which I see parking slots, but where's the snow going? And what's part of their plan? Is that part of the previous plan? That snow is going to get moved, along with the garbage and whatever else. But the biggie right now has been snow, because people have complained about, I've got this apartment and it doesn't have any parking with it, and where do I put my car? So, not forcing you to create any more parking, but if you've got it and you're allowing your tenants to use it, let's fully use that parking to our best of our ability. And especially with the parking ban going until April 1st, by the way. So, but yeah, this would be an interesting topic to bring to the planning commission, to ask about how retrofits and how these, the LDC was about, let's say, a bare earth. It wasn't necessarily renovations, but the DRB, in my opinion, my opinion alone, is they could require some greenery in some fashion for Park Street in the front of the building, since it's asphalt and concrete. Greenery would probably break things up and add some accents that probably would be welcome to any of the tenants that are in that building, along with all the residents of the city. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When the crescent connector work, which appears to this site plan that's on the screen appears to be maybe an existing condition plan, including the new connector. So in theory, that entire front streetscape has just been redone by the city with assisting money from the feds. So if they didn't put any landscaping in then,
They
you know what I'm
didn't
saying?
ask me about landscaping, okay? They did this on their own. They did not come back to the planning commission to have a chat. So should they have? Well, in hindsight, probably should have. But there's a lot of shoulda, couldas, and that's one of them. Okay, so which is why I'm saying maybe a box of plants, like petunias and whatever else, maybe some hanging plants or something, to get some greenie on there, because normally we would indeed ask for street trees. But I know that some of the local businesses have put in, street planters instead, like something that's over on the corner of in front of Firewood and that sort of thing, as opposed to a street tree. We would possibly bring that greenery that people have been asking for. And we haven't written into code that you're required other than the street trees. So the DRB's got some latitude here, as to getting that greenery compliance. And I'll let that up to your imagination as to how you and the applicant might get that done.
Fair enough. I do think that's the crux of this applicability issue gets back to what's this building really on paper have, and how close to compliance is it with, let's say, the current regulations. And I think if it's important for us to know where we stand now before we start to impose any requests for improvements that go beyond what would just be applicable to the little portion of this that you're altering. So we're not saying that we're trying to get you to bring the whole building up to code, but it sounds like there's some leverage that we have. And I think the way to enter that conversation is to at least know what you have on paper, what's been approved, what changes have been made, what parking you have, what the striping is, where the lights are, all that stuff. I don't know if that's a full plan or anything. I think that's work with what's available and see what it is first, and then work with staff after you kind of figure out what you believe your approach is, and then come back with whatever it is that you decide is appropriate for this, that appears to meet the regulations in at least a prorated way, would be my suggestion. But I think just knowing where you are with what's on paper and how it works, again, the key things normally are dumpsters, parking, walkways, entries, lighting. Sometimes there's signage. This may just be whatever you say is the mail delivery. I mean, one of the things for apartment buildings is, where is there a lobby? Where's the mail go? Where do the packages get left? That kind of stuff that feels like a detail until, 14 delivery trucks pull up trying to deliver everybody's, Amazon package. When right now you have deliveries, but you have a loading dock and they schedule them and they show up and they, take 5,000 t-shirts away. You know what I mean? So there's a functional piece of what happens when you start adding more residences. And I just think as long as you have a plan, you can tell everybody, well, here's what we got now. Here's what we see changing. This is how we're dealing with the changes. And oh, by the way, we dropped a couple of planters on the sidewalk and put some bike parking in, for example. I think that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments from the remote listeners? I don't see any hands. Okay. I think I need to close the public meeting. I need a motion to close the public meeting.
Motion to close public meeting.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So that's the show. You got our comments and feedback. I'm sure staff will be happy to continue to work with you on this. Just great presentation. I think the project itself is fine. We don't really have a lot to say about the interior work, and the windows aren't bothering anybody, but just work on maybe some of the site issues, and good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're up to other development review board items. Are there any?
Only one I had was to reiterate the memorandum that's in your packet that the land development code amendments that Chris previewed for you during the November meeting have been warned by City Council for a public hearing next Wednesday, February 26th.
You gotta go out that way.
Out this way, yeah. Thanks, guys. So yeah, next Wednesday, those are up for public hearing. Public engagement is critical for this process. Tell your neighbors and review the amendments, of course, yourself. Full text and summary can be found on the Planning Commission's page on the city's website. And obviously, Chris and I are available to support if you have questions on anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was some discussion at a recent meeting with Diane physically here that we were all going to get together and have a joint meeting. Have we looked into scheduling something like that, or a joint meeting with, I mean, the last time we went to City Council, I presented, but I think I can't remember why I was there. They either asked me to show up and tell them what the DRB was doing, or it was a that might have been like an annual check-in with them. But is there a plan for any of the boards to get together for a joint meeting at this point?
I know Planning Commission just had one with City Council. Would your preference be to have a scheduled in-person meeting, or would you be open to summary reports generated back and forth either by the chair, or would your preference be to be scheduled in person?
I think my preference would be to have a scheduled joint meeting, and where we can hear what the Planning Commission is considering, what their responses they've had to I mean, we've been updated by the sort of mandated changes coming down from the state, thanks to Chris, but the Planning Commission and the DRB ought to be working fairly closely together to just determine and then manage or administer the land development code. So I would be much in favor of having a real meeting.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what cadence you'd like for that? Like, would annual be sufficient, or should this be an occurrence like every time Planning Commission has a big project on the horizon?
I think maybe twice a year. Maybe we can get down to once a year, but we've only been split apart for a year now, or year and a half or something. So maybe twice a year until we decide that we're running smoothly, and then it could be evaluated again.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start those conversations and get back to you.
Good. Anything else? Awesome. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I would move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We're adjourned.